right, it's time to talk to our buddy Fran Duffy from, I could say from PHLY, but I'm going to choose not to. I'm going to say our draft expert and analyst of ALLCITY Productions, and say hello to Fran Duffy, who is at the Combine in Indy. Hi, Fran.
What's going on, guys? I've been listening. Clarence, don't let them give you all this crap about the water carrying. You're just trying to relay the message.
He's carrying the water.
Exactly. Exactly.
The water
Thank you,
carrier,
Fran.
brother.
Thank
Fran,
you,
are you
Fran.
raw dogging under that hoodie?
No, we got. Look, we're in Indy. It's a little bit colder than Philly. We're multiple layers have to happen when we're up here.
Dude, one time I went to Indy dressed like that, and I thought I could walk out of the stadium to the White Castle in a T-shirt and a hoodie, and I came back in after 3 steps, and my buddy Brian Broadus gave me like a dead animal jacket that helped me get to White Castle. That's not enough. I just need you to know that.
One of the coldest days I've ever experienced has been here in Indy, like minus real feel, minus 12, something like that. Like I want to say it was like 2014, something like it can get cold up here.
I think it was that year. I think it was 2014 or somewhere around there. And our first day, Dave Hellman, the sun went down. It was cold outside. I walked back from the bar, and he quit. Yeah, life. Like he sat down on the ground. He said, "I just can't do it. Leave me." It was great. So Fran, for us, is absolutely incredible. If you're signed up to be a diehard at alldlls.com, you'll have access to all the things that he writes. His draft guide is incredible. It's interactive. You can do position rankings. It's updated all the time. You can see all these different things. And on there right now is the biggest storylines of the Combine. And I'm going to pick the one that interests me maybe the most, just real quick. There's a gentleman at the Combine that played at Georgia. His name is Jalon Walker. He played linebacker. He played pass rusher. And I love Jalon Walker. I think he's one of the top 5 players in the draft. But I also think there's only 3 or 4 that are like, yes, that's a wonderful prospect. And he falls into the, is that a tweener? Is that a hybrid weapon? Like, which way do we view this, and what does the Combine mean for him? So, Jalon Walker, go.
Yeah, I mean, I would make the argument that the athletic testing portion of this week, for nobody else, is it more important than for Jalon Walker. I think it really want to try and get a sense of what that athletic profile is for him. What does that mean for his projection? Because I'm going to be honest, man, like watching him, it was a roller coaster for me over the course of 2 or 3 different viewing sessions, right? I watched a couple games in the middle of the fall. This was his first year as a full-time starter. And watching him, I'm like, all right, like I kind of think that he's an off-ball backer who can come down and play on the line at times. You're talking like a Leo Chenal type, which is a very useful player, but not somebody I'm talking about taking in the first half of the first round. And then I was talking with people through the fall, and they're like, look, he's going to go high. Look at him as purely an edge guy. And I was like, all right, I'll wait till post-Senior Bowl. I'll come back, and I'll watch all of his defensive line snaps from the course of the season just so I can take all of it in. And I did that this week. And I was like, I can't get all the way in on him as a full-time pass rusher. I just don't think that there's enough there. Even from an athleticism standpoint, like he's got closing speed. But Jeff, like I don't know if he's a guy that's going to consistently threaten edges, right? Like I don't know if you're Tyler Guyton and you're lined up from across from him. Well, maybe for Tyler Guyton, but maybe if you're one of the other guys.
Tyler Guyton would be trouble.
if you're a starting tackle in the league where you're worried about, hey, you know what, this guy's going to get my edge consistently time after time, and at 6'2", 250, I need you to be that kind of athlete, right? Like comparing him to Micah. That's not a fair comparison. Like Micah was such a freak show athlete, and you guys know this, obviously. Like what he is as a physical specimen, comparing Jalon Walker to that is very difficult, and that's why the testing is going to be important this week, because now we'll get a sense, we can kind of quantify what kind of an athlete he is. And honestly, after watching all of his pressures back this week, watching all those D-line snaps, watching more of his off-ball snaps as well, I ended up where I think he's more of a rotational piece where he, yes, important part of the defense, 3-down player, but I don't know that he's going to be like that quality impact starter. I think he's got a high floor. I just don't know what the ceiling is, and I need to know what that ceiling is if I'm going to take him that high.
Fran, you mentioned about testing, right? And these guys, they come from far and near to Indy, and they do the underwear Olympics. But we're starting to see an uptick on the top-level players saying, nah, we're just going to come interview, we're going to come have some White Castle, and that's it. We're not doing all the other stuff until we get to our pro days. Is this something that we can see an uptick on in the future, right? Like the evaluation process of guys now just saying, I'm good on Indy, I'm just going to wait till my pro day. And how is that on the popularity of the combine going forward?
You know, I think that we've been seeing it for years now, where guys will come in and they decide they're not going to run. Quarterbacks deciding they're not going to throw. You know, I don't think that that's anything that's huge. Obviously, you know, there are the cases where we saw Marvin Harrison Jr. last year where he basically said no to the whole thing, right? Like he was like, I think by the time the receivers even took the field, he was no longer even in town. So I think that is a little bit of a unique scenario when you look at Shedeur. You know, Shedeur Sanders not going to throw, not going to do any of the athletic testing, but still going through interviews, still going through the medical check. He's still doing everything else asked of him this week. And so I think you're still going to get more than a handful of players every single year. They're going to choose to opt out of that and wait till their pro day to go through a workout if they're going to do that. So in the case of Shedeur Sanders, would you rather see him come out and throw? Yeah, I said me selfishly too. Like I've never seen Shedeur throw live, so it would have been nice for me. But for NFL teams, like you have seen him throw live. Maybe the general manager hasn't. Maybe the quarterback coach and the offensive coordinator, the head coach, they haven't seen him throw live. But you've had people all boots on the ground, you know, at games, at practices in Boulder, being able to see him throw live, and you're going to lean on those evaluations over the course of the pre-draft process.
Hey, Fran, how you doing? Can you tell these guys people go to Indy for St. Elmo's, not for
White Castle?
Not for White Castle.
I go for White Castle.
And it's another. What's the other burger joint that's downtown? They go.
The corned beef place?
No, the one right there.
Steak and Shake.
Steak and Shake. We go to Steak and Shake.
You get Steak and Shake.
You're
down the street.
I'm sorry.
You go to the Steak and Shake for the milkshake at like 2 a.m.
Yeah, it's 2 a.m. You go to Steak and Shake. I'm just saying, as a veteran at the combine, Steak and Shake is where people go late
to the
at night,
Slippery Noodle,
or you go.
You'll have a great time.
Or you go to St. Elmo's.
Go to White Castle, get your 2 surf and turfs with cheese, hold the ketchup and pickles, get 6 cheeseburgers, order onion rings.
Chicken rings,
chicken rings, and a red slushie.
Yeah.
You know, Mel Kiper mocked the running back from North Carolina to the Cowboys at 12. Where are you seeing the running? There's so much talk about the running back. Certainly in Dallas, we've been focused on Genty. And does Hampton, is he slipping into the first round, top of the first round? Where do you have him, and how close are those two?
Yeah, I do have Genty like a tier above Omarion Hampton. That said, like I love Omarion Hampton. I love his film. I do see a 3-down player. I see a guy that can be an impactful starter in the NFL. I don't know that he has that like those dynamic game-breaking qualities that a Genty has, but this is a guy that creates his own creates his own yardage, plays through contact extremely well. I like his vision and patience. He sets up defenders for failure consistently, both in a phone booth and then up at the second and third level. So I think when you're looking at Omarion Hampton, I do see him in the first round when it's all said and done. As we sit here on, February 26th, I do feel like he probably ends up in the middle of round 1. Number 12 overall might be a little bit rich, but look, if you're a team that wants to try and assert themselves on the ground, I could see it. That said, I mean, it would be such a drastic zig back after zagging the other way. When it came to the way that the Cowboys evaluated the running back spot, not just to take Ashton Genty, but to say we're going to take the RB2 off the board at 12 overall. That would be a little bit surprising, just based off how the last 48 months have gone for Dallas.
Fran, you talked about players that are not going to be working out at the combine. One of those is going to be Tyler Warren, and that's a guy that has become a point of contention between me and Mr. Carry the Water over here.
Yeah, water carry.
I want to hear your take on Tyler Warren. Is that a guy you think could be in the top 10? I mean, at 12 overall, in terms of with the wide receivers the way they are, maybe the Cowboys, that's their second weapon next to CeeDee Lamb. What do you think of Tyler Warren?
Yeah, I think that Tyler Warren definitely checks a lot of the boxes that we've seen from recent Dallas Cowboys first-round picks. You know, when you look at the way that Will McClay and that scouting staff have targeted players, some of the themes that have popped up consistently for me, they are markers that point towards Tyler Warren. That said, to me, like, this is higher than Brock Bowers went last year. Brock Bowers is a tier above Tyler Warren. I really like Tyler Warren, but we have talked in the last few weeks, and we always couch it with, in this class, yeah, Tyler Warren can go that high, right? And I think that that's the way I kind of land on this, is that it's probably a little bit earlier than I personally would feel comfortable, in the grand scope of things. But here this year, I could see Tyler Warren going up that high at 12 overall. I just kind of, to me, when I look at it, there are just so many holes. I agree with what Jesse was saying earlier. I was listening to you guys for the last 10, 15 minutes. I think when you look at the line of scrimmage, you want to continue to bolster the trenches. You lose Zach Martin there. I know Brock Hoffman had a nice year, but I think you want to continue to add as much blue chip talent there to the offensive line, to the defensive line, just to try and see if you can level the playing field when you're going up against Philly, against Washington, and what they've done, here this season. I think you want to try and continue to keep that playing field as level as possible.
This is Fran Duffy with us, and you need to make sure you're signed up to be a diehard, alldlls.com/diehard, and you'll get access to all of his draft content, which is absolutely freaking incredible and worth signing up to be a diehard all on its own, and you get all sorts of other stuff when you do that, so just do it. Corner is another spot where the Cowboys need help, and I wonder, medical-wise, there's obviously going to be multiple guys that it matters, but how many names could you see possibly being in consideration in the top half of the first round that play corner?
Yeah, I mean, I would say this class is really interesting because when you look, Travis Hunter at the top, right? If you're going to view him as playing corner, feel really good about that. I love the evaluation there. He's one of the best corners I've ever evaluated. Then when you go next, to me, it's a lot of guys with questions. And questions that can get answered in a way here this week. What does Will Johnson from Michigan run? That's a big question that people have. Is he going to run well enough to warrant that high pick? He was inconsistent this year. Honestly, I thought there were some inconsistencies last year as a sophomore as well. But then he had some injuries this year, ended up basically just not playing in the second half of the season in a down year for Michigan. So what does Will Johnson look like here in Indianapolis? But then you look at Siobhan Revel, the corner from ECU. Guys, he's got round one tape, but he has not played a lot of football. Only at ECU, was a junior college transfer. He started something like 13, 14 games in his career, at the highest level of football, and he did it at ECU, right? And so I think when you're looking at Siobhan Revel, there's projection there. I do think that the skill set really matches what the Cowboys could be looking for at the cornerback spot. You look at Benjamin Morrison from Notre Dame. This is a guy with he's coming off hip surgery. It's his second hip surgery since high school. He had one when he was at that level as well. Are you going to take a smaller corner that's had 2 hip surgeries in 5 years? What does that look like moving forward? I just think when you look at this cornerback class, there's a lot of talent, but what are some of these questions that can get answered this week in terms of guys that can run well or the medical check? It's going to be big for a number of these players.
Fran, you're a beast. We enjoy your work across the All-City Network, and we will talk to you next week. Enjoy Indy. Have a White Castle.
Looking forward. Yeah, I don't know if I'll have the White Castle, but Clarence, I was able to. I jumped on. I got the shrimp cocktail last night, so I've got that's number 1. We'll see if I sample number 2 here in the next couple of days.
There you go.
Disappointing. All right, there goes Fran Duffy.
We all silly like the mayor.